welcome everybody to the Town of Greene Planning Board meeting for the month of March. Thank you for joining us via Skype this evening. And just so everybody's aware, as part of our rules of being able to hold this for open meeting law, we have to have it all be recorded, and then it'll be transcribed, and then both the transcription and the recording will be placed on the town website. So as part of those rules too, we also have to announce ourselves before we speak each time. So I'll go by starting by, my name is Michelle Day, and I'm the Town of Greene Planning Board Chairperson. And I'd like to welcome everybody for attending this evening, and we'll go through with roll call about who we have on the call, and then we'll go ahead and jump right into the public meetings and public hearings and go through that first. Then we'll go into our regular business meeting for the planning board. So thank you everybody for working through this unique situation with us, and we appreciate everybody calling in, and we'll work through things as they come up. So to get started, it looks like for planning board members, everybody's here. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourselves.
George Zaborowski, planning board member.
Tim Connor, planning board member.
John Shear, planning board member.
Nancy Nowak, planning board member.
Matt Curtis, planning board member.
Samantha Hoskins, planning board member.
Okay, this is Michelle Day, and I think that's everybody that we had in there. So it looks like for applicants on the line, we have Patrick Doyle representing Wrap Signs, and we have Carl, I apologize on how to pronounce your last name, Schwesinger from Fagan Engineering, and he's part of our tractor supply development along with Brian Lambert. And then we also have Jill Dallas here from On Common Grounds. And from the town board, it looks like we have Steve Page and also Steve Northrup have joined us. And then from the community, it looks like we have Marcia Miller and a few other people that have called in. So if you called in the number, who else joined via phone?
Michelle, this is Bernie McDermott.
Hi, Bernie.
What do you put in Skype to be able to see this?
It's the meeting link, or you can also put in the meeting number, which is 68816.
Okay, I tried that earlier and it doesn't do anything.
What's your,
is
so
it a
the only
group
thing,
or?
The only thing that we're sharing is a copy of the application for the people that might not see it.
Correct.
What's your email address, Bernie?
Do you have the email up, the Gmail?
How
I
about
sent an email to that?
I think actually I have your email address. I just sent it to you. So you can join via the link. Is there anybody else that's on the phone?
Michelle, this is Will Merrill.
Hi, Will. Thank you for calling in. We received your email, Will.
Okay, thank you.
So I think that's just
George
about everybody. Oh, was somebody else?
Yes, George Marr.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mr. Marr. Thank you for joining. Okay, so I think that's everybody that we have here. So a couple of etiquette rules that we have for Skype when we get started. We'll make sure that everybody has a chance to discuss things during their respective public hearings. We're going to start with wrap signs for the Shenango River Theater sign to begin with. And general etiquette for Skype is that if you're not the one speaking at the moment, it's best to try to mute your microphone. That way everybody can try to limit the noise that we have in the background that's going on and then we'll pause and give people a chance to unmute their microphones to talk if need be. So to get started with the public hearings, Matt, would you please read our public hearing notice?
Sure. Okay, this is Matt Curtis, Planning Board member. Please take notice, the Planning Board of the Town of Greene public hearing originally scheduled for Monday, March 23rd for the properties listed below have been rescheduled to Monday, March 30th on or about 7 p.m. and will be held via Skype teleconference. Number 1, Shenango River Theater, 991 State Highway 12, Greene, New York, tax map number 258-1-17.12. Applicant Wrap Signs, 3979 New York Route 206, Greene, New York, changing 2 existing signs. Number 2, Tractor Supply Company applicant is DMK Development property owner by Over Realty LLC, Jeff Mize, property located at 95 South Shenango Street Extension, Greene, New York, in the town of Greene, tax back number 247.08-11-27. Number 3, On Common Grounds Coffee House Bakery Business owned by Jill Dahl, property owned by Over Realty LLC, Jeff Mize, 166 Shenango Street, Greene, New York, tax map number 247.08-11-27. Relocate existing coffee house food service building to the front of the Great American. Said hearing will be held on the 30th day of March 2020 on or about 7 p.m. via Skype teleconference. Call and information 1-844-591-2757. Conference number 68816, at which time all persons interested shall be given an opportunity to be heard. Anyone not able to attend that wants to provide comments, concerns, and questions may email the Town of Greene Planning Board by 4 p.m. on Monday, March 30th. Email Town of Greene, New York Planning Board, all one word, at gmail.com. Other business may be discussed at this time by the order of the Planning Board. Michelle Day, chairperson.
So this is Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board member. Thank you, Matt, very much for reading that. So we'll go ahead and to amend, we began the meeting at 7:02 p.m. this evening, and we're starting the first public hearing for Shenango River Theater Wrap Signs at 7:10 p.m. And at this time, I'll entertain comments from the floor for the public hearing regarding Shenango River Theater. Are there any public comments from the floor?
This is Patrick Doyle with Wrap Signs.
Hi, Patrick.
Hello. Our proposal is to replace the existing wall sign, which is 4 foot high by 24 foot long, with a new internally illuminated main identification sign that's 3 foot high by 20 feet long. So we are actually reducing the square footage of the sign that's currently on the building. The proposal also includes replacing the 4 foot by 8 foot changeable copy trailer type sign that's out by the entrance driveway with a 4 foot by 8 foot 1 inch changeable copy sign, which will also have the Shenango River Theater as a header on it. That sign will be at 10 foot overall height and be placed in approximately the same location as the current sign is, so that it's set back from the road to allow for visibility. Both of these signs are internally illuminated, and the proposal would be to have them illuminated from dusk till dawn, as there are similar signs in the neighborhood that are illuminated during those hours.
Thank you for your synopsis, Patrick. Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board. Is there any other comments at this time for wrap signs. Okay, then at this time, I will share with everybody an email that we received from Marcel Barros regarding the proposed project. And he states that he fully supports all three proposed projects. And in regards to the Schnagel River Theater sign, his comment is that the new Schnagel River Theater sign will be set back, and he understands that that will be a much safer option than the way that it is today. Respectfully submitted, Marcel Barros. So if there is no other public discussion regarding wrap signs for the Schnagel River Theater sign update, I will close the public hearing at 7:13 p.m. And then we will move to open the next public hearing, which Matt already read the opening for as part of the last one. And that will be for the Tractor Supply Corporation development in the Great American Plaza, or what today is the Great American Plaza. So we have the proposed sign for that. We'll pull up here. And we will begin that public hearing at 7:13 p.m. Does anyone have any comments in regards to the Tractor Supply development in the Great American parking lot?
Michelle, it's Marcia Miller. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Are you dealing with just Tractor Supply now, or is the project also include Common Grounds?
Just Tractor Supply at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board. And the next piece in regards to Tractor Supply, we received 2 public comments via email, and I will share those with the group now. So we have an email from Marcel Barros regarding the proposed project, and Marcel says the new central tractor will provide a much needed hardware option for Greene, and that he is in support of the proposed project. So that is one public comment. The other public comment is from Will Merrill, and Will states that I feel the addition of a Tractor Supply store in Greene would fulfill many local needs. Everyone is constantly saying we need a hardware store since Comfort's closed. Everyone wants a shoe, clothing place locally. Everyone constantly wants a lumber store since Curtis Lumber left. While Tractor Supply may not have everything, but for those small items, electrical, plumbing, clothes, boots, animal feeds, tools, they have a little of everything for residents, farmers, hobby guys, contractors could grab items. They have lawn and garden items, chainsaws like when the town had pang burns. On top of having a little of everything, it would add jobs, add tax revenue to the town. Finally create something out of the parking lot and put a store in the space that was built 20 years ago for this exact reason. It would also pull more local businesses. It's a chain store, but our town residents could spend money locally, and hopefully some locals would have work close to home. To me and several I've heard from, looks like a big win for the Town of Greene residents to have Tractor Supply come to town. And that's from Will Merrill. Does anybody else have any other comments or things to say in regards to the Tractor Supply development in the Great American parking lot? Okay, at this time we'll close the public hearing for the Tractor Supply at 7:16 p.m. And at this time we'll move on to the next public hearing, which is for the relocation of On Common Grounds from where it is on the south side of the Great American parking lot to the grassy knoll in front of the Great American store. I will pull that up, and we will open that public hearing at 7:17 p.m. So at this time, is there anybody that wanted to speak in regards to Uncommon Grounds relocation?
Hi, Michelle. Jill Dahl here, owner of Uncommon Grounds. I also have Tim Simpson with me for any construction questions that might come up.
Okay, thank you, Jill. Michelle from Town of Greene Planning Board.
Michelle, it's Marcia Miller again. I have a concern on their entrance and exit to the common grounds. I don't see any drawings on it.
So can you see, Michelle from Town of Greene Planning Board, can you see the picture that's being shared, Marcia?
That I can see.
So here is the Great American side.
Right.
And then here's the building in the middle.
Okay, that I can see.
The proposal is a drive-through here between the two buildings.
So the entrance will be crossing the traffic that's coming out of Great American?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the exit is here on the north side of the property, which is like the Great American where the tractor trailer and freight loading, unloading area is here on the other side.
Between the bowling alley?
Yes.
Okay. Would you show me again where it comes out, Michelle, with your arrow?
Yep, right here.
Okay.
And then when we looked on the large map for it, all of this and the dimensions, all of it stays within the Great American property boundaries.
Okay.
Did you have any other questions or comments, Marcia?
No, again, one concern is that the entrance is going to cross the Great American parking or the exit to Great American. So they're going to cross that traffic, correct? Yes.
Yep, for the drive-through.
Okay.
Okay. So Michelle, Town of Greene Planning Board, does anybody have any other comments in regards to Uncommon Grounds for the public hearing? Okay, so at this time, we'll close the public hearing for Uncommon Grounds at 7:20 p.m. And we'll begin the regular meeting for the Town of Greene Planning Board at this time. Okay, so at this point in time, we're going to start with old business, which is wrap signs for Shenango River Theater. So there was a committee that went out to look at the site, and committee chair was George. George, do you have a committee report for us?
Hi, this is George Zabrowski, Planning Board. Hi, Patrick. How are you? I went out and looked at the site. There are no concerns. I think the sign upgrades are just that, an upgrade. They'll look good. It'd be good to get rid of that mobile sign that's there right now. And I only had one question, Patrick. In your original application, I thought the signs were going to be dusk till about 11 p.m. Did you change that to dusk to dawn?
Yes, that was changed after a discussion with Bill. He said that they would prefer to have that ability to have it illuminated overnight for an advertising purpose, as well as for some safety concerns for some additional lighting of the vehicles that are pulling in and out of that driveway, so that they can see both sides of the driveway, as well as illumination on the front of that building to kind of illuminate that doorway.
So this this would be both signs are illuminated.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments on that?
Tim Connor, Planning Board member. I was very impressed with the initial time for the sign. The sign would be off at night. due to concerns about light pollution and residences in the area. I know there are other signs that are on during that time period, but I personally think that it was much better planned when it was a dusk to dawn. It was not a dusk to dawn. And I honestly think the application does say, this application that I thought we were going to act on and vote on did say that it would be off at 11 or whatever.
Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board. Yes, that is what the original application said that I'm looking at now, was we had said on at dark and then off at 11 p.m. And I think that at our last meeting, we had a discussion how that was once you got through the time period where people would be leaving the theater, it would be way before 11 o'clock. And the main traffic on that corridor was finished at 11 o'clock. So that was what the original discussion was. Was there anything else from a committee report standpoint, George?
No, so long as it adheres to all DOT regulations and stays out of the right of way. I thought everything was fine.
Okay. Shell Town of Greene Planning Board. We did receive the 239 review from Chenango County, and their comments back to us was to comply with New York State DOT comments. And those were forwarded to us, where we did receive a letter from Tony Signorelli from the Regional Traffic Engineer for the Department of Transportation. And he stated that they reviewed the materials of the above received proposal. Please note that nothing must be placed within the state right-of-way, including the proposed signage. The applicant may contact the New York State DOT Chenango Residency at 607-843-6884 if assistance is needed in locating the highway boundary. If you have any other questions or need further assistance, please contact Sean Murphy at 607-772-7335. So we do have that letter as well. And Patrick, if you so desire, we can get you a copy of both of those if need be.
Okay, that's fine. Typically, that's what we do: is we contact DOT to confirm things before any excavation's done or any signs are installed. So.
Okay. Is there any discussion among the planning board at this point in time regarding the application for wrap signs?
Tim Connor, planning board member. Yeah, just a point of clarification. If we're going to be asked to vote soon, are we voting on the application as was able to be reviewed by the public, which said that the sign would be off at 11 and that was mentioned at a public meeting, or are we now changing what we're voting on?
I think that's open. Michelle, Town of Greene Planning Board, I think that's open for discussion at the moment, which way we're going to go with it. That's up to the board, whether or not we want to stick with the original stipulation for the time and that becomes a contingency on the approval, or whether we want to re-review it for the longer duration.
Nancy Nowak, planning board member. With them wanting it all night till dawn, do they have lights over their doors so that they don't need these signs on all night long? Seems like an awful waste of energy.
We could, this is Pat Doyle with wrap signs, we could have them install the time clock on this and put 2 sets of trippers on it so that the sign would come on at dark and then go off at 11 or 12 o'clock when the theater was finished and the folks had left, and then click back on in the morning to catch morning traffic, and also illuminate that entranceway so that it would, it wouldn't be running all evening then, or all night long.
Patrick, Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board, what would be the time that it would come back on in the morning?
It would come back on at approximately 6:30 in the morning, and then just until maybe 8, 9 o'clock, depending on the time of the year, so that they could take advantage of the advertising on that.
So are you proposing it would be approximately dusk until 11 p.m. and then 6:30 a.m. until daylight?
Yes.
This is George.
And I'm not Pat Doyle. I'm not sure if everyone will have left the premises by 11 o'clock, depending on what shows they have going on. So I just wanted to clarify that in case it was on at 11:30, because folks were, the show had run a little later, and there were still folks leaving the premises. So that 11 o'clock may not be a hard number. It would, it may go off earlier if folks are leaving. I've left the facility at that time. But we could make an adjustment on it so that it's not on all night. Even though that other businesses there in the area that aren't open at night do have theirs on, but we could make that adjustment.
Would it be acceptable to amend the application to say the sign will be off from midnight to 6 a.m.?
Yes, in our opinion, that would be acceptable.
Anybody else have input on that?
This is
Tim
Nancy
Connor.
Nowak. I like that idea.
Tim Connor, Planning Board member. I think that's a nice compromise.
Yep.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion that we accept the application as submitted with that amendment, and that pending that he conforms to all DOT regulations.
Tim Connor,
Nancy Nowak, board member. I'll second that.
Michelle Day, Planning Board member, any further discussion? All in favor?
Tim Connor, yes.
Aye.
John
Nancy
Shear,
Nowak, yes.
Matt Curtis, yes.
Sam Hoskins, yes.
George, did you say yes?
I did.
Okay. And Michelle Day, yes. So I think that's everybody. So motion carries. So we'll move forward with the wrap signs, and Patrick, you'll be getting a letter in the mail with us within the next couple days. Copy of the 239. And we'll give you a copy of the 239 and the DOT letter that we received at the same time. And included in that letter will be the contingencies of DOT approval, and then also the amendment of saying the signs need to be off between midnight to 6 a.m.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration with this.
Thank you. So with that being said, we'll move on from that one and move on to the Tractor Supply development. So for Tractor Supply, John, I believe you were the committee chair for that one.
correct?
So do you want to give us a report on that?
Be happy to. In reviewing the application for the Tractor Supply development, we first, after reviewing the site plan, did a site visit, which included a number of the board members. We did a walk around of the site, including walking around the proposed construction site, walking back through, looking at the site of the proposed drainage pond, and considered everything that we could relative to the aesthetics that were going to be impacted. The overall site plan itself, nobody saw any particular issue with. What did come out of the conversation was the recommendation for primarily two things. First was a row of trees that could be planted at the rear of the site, which would accomplish a couple of things. First, it would obstruct the view for residents across the river looking back to the back of the building, giving it a better appearance than the industrial view of the back of a store. This also is with the type of trees that were proposed were very suitable for this type of wet ground, and so poplar trees have been promoted for that spot and added to the site plan. Those should also stabilize the ground in that area. We also looked at the addition of an oil and water separator. That recommendation was made to the developer, and that was also added to the site plan. So everything that we have documented now represents the input that we had. There was also a comment made from a board member about the strength of the lights and the positioning, and with the possible idea that there may be a substitution to use a lower power light. I personally went down and looked at the facility, an identical facility on Front Street in Binghamton, looked at the lights and tried to determine whether or not they represented any kind of a distraction. In my opinion, they didn't. So I'm comfortable with the lights as proposed.
Michelle Day, Planning Board member. Thank you for that report, John. There were a couple of other things just to catch everybody up that we had asked to be provided to the board after our last month's meeting for the application. And one of that was the lighting plan with specs and also a building layout of lighting, which was provided. And that has been on file with the town for the past 3 weeks and was viewable for the public hearing folder. We also asked for a plan regarding the sign and what that looked like. That was also provided in that same time period, as well as the SHPO results, was that everything was okay in that area. And then we also received a preliminary SWIP from Tractor Supply as well, and the property owner's signature was added to the application from the Great American side. So we did receive all of the open items that we had there. And there was also 239 results that came from the county. And as part of that, their comments, the only comment they had was that all lighting be baffled downward. And we did receive that. And we also sent a copy of the application and proposed everything, notification that it was occurring, to the village planning board. So they received a copy of it as well, because we are close to the border for both this project and the next one we're going to talk about. So in regards to that, at this point in time, I will open it up to the board to see if there's any discussion regarding the Tractor Supply project.
Tim Connor, Planning Board member. What species of poplar are they promoting for that site?
It basically was just listed as a poplar.
Well, the deal is they're from the Midwest. They're probably thinking Lombardy poplar, those long, skinny, straight ones that die after about 10 years in Chenango County. And I would promote that they would plant something much more suited to our climate, like a tulip poplar. They grow very fast, and maybe even interspace with some sort of coniferous tree. It's a better blockage of light, noise, and sight when their leaves are off the trees. So since they've only mentioned poplar, I think I'd like to at least specify tulip poplars, which are much more suited to Shenango County and easily to get, and maybe even interspersing some coniferous trees as a better screen.
This is Carl Schlesinger, the engineer for the applicant, and we're okay with doing that. We're definitely going to source the trees locally, and I can get that updated on our drawing. I got cut off the Skype call a little bit ago. So you were talking about the strength of lights, and then it cut out, and I came back, and you said that the county, their only requirement was that lights be baffled. So I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything major.
No, Carl, you caught it. That was the request from the county, so Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board, was all lighting be baffled downward. That was the comment on the 239 review.
All right, this is Carl Schlesinger. I have one other comment, is for the oil water separator. We added that oil water separator to the drawings. What we typically do for this situation is we have used a hood inside each catch basin that will basically separate water and oils in the catch basins. Those are shown on our detail for the catch basins, and I would actually prefer to do that instead of the oil water separator. But if the town wants the oil water separator, we would remove those hoods on the catch basins. We'd like to not do both different treatments for separating oils. The hoods in the catch basins seem to be, they work well. It's easy to see if there's any oil in the catch basin that needs to be cleaned out. They're a little bit easier with maintenance. I think on a stormwater thing, if the oil water separator kind of gets forgotten about sometimes and maybe not maintained as easily as the catch basin. So let's put that up there.
This is Nancy Nowak for the Planning Board. Carl, when you say hoods inside the catch basins, the hood catches the oil, and then where does it go from there?
So what it is there's like a foot sump in the catch basin below the outlet pipe, and this hood is a big metal hood that fits over that and into the sump, so it leaves the oil on the surface of the catch basin inside of it, and then you would need to clean it out. So you would have to recognize that it was there. It's typically something that would help with, if there was a spill of oil or you saw that a car had leaked or something, that you would go and clean it out.
Okay, so somebody would have to be kind of monitoring that every now and then?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just wondered. Thank you.
And I guess same thing with the oil water separator. Someone would have to monitor if there was any oil in there to get it removed. If it builds up too much, the oil just passes through and ends up flowing out anyway. So they're both, they both have maintenance and inspection issues.
Yeah, I would think.
So John Shear, Town of Greene Planning Board member, assuming that would just become a tenant responsibility for regular maintenance.
Yeah, actually, with the New York State DEC stormwater permits, they actually have to have an O&M maintenance agreement filed with the deed, and that would be one of the items included in that quarterly they get tested or inspected and cleaned when needed, something like that. And that would be something that would be submitted to the town. Usually the town attorney is the one who gives the final approval, and then it gets filed with the deed.
Understood.
Okay, Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board member. Is there any further discussion amongst the application for the planning board members?
is George, Town of Greene Planning. I'd like to get back to lighting. I reviewed the lighting specs, and they meet the county's request. The comprehensive plan for the Town of Greene does call for night sky compliant lighting whenever possible. And the lighting specs that were provided actually meet night sky requirements on everything except color temperature. John, color temperature has nothing to do with light intensity or power. It's the color of the light. These lighting fixtures are available at 3,000 Kelvin, which would meet that requirement. So it's not that the developer would have to get different fixtures. I'm just not sure why we wouldn't want that. I mean, these lights are going to be on all night long. I'm not questioning that. Does it have to be a very harsh, bluish white light? Can we not get something a little warmer to help make this a little less obtrusive?
So Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board, I one thing to clarify there. I believe that the lights are going off half an hour after the store closes. Per the application.
Not the security lights, Michelle.
That was submitted. So you're talking about the security
Not the
lights on
security
building?
Did you catch that?
Which ones are you referring to? The security lights on the building?
Yes.
Okay. The rest of them are going off, right? All the rest of them go off half an hour after?
I believe that's what the plan said.
Yeah.
Brian Librand with EMK Development Developer here. Yes, that's correct, Michelle.
Okay. Is there any further discussion from town board, planning board members regarding lighting?
Tim Connor, planning board member. So is the developer, by being silent, saying that they would not have night sky compliant security lighting as an option, or are we hearing something else?
Brian Librand, EMK Development. The lights are spec'd and sourced directly by Tractor Supply. We don't pick the lights. And so if there was going to be a special request made to change what they spec, we would have to go to them and ask.
Why is that a problem?
It's not necessarily a problem to ask, Brian Librand again. Just a function of time, I suppose. I just guarantee whether or not what they would say.
This is George again. I was under the impression John asked you half a month ago.
This is John Shear.
Brian,
yes, we did. We did bring that up, and Brian at that time made me aware that the lighting was a requirement from Tractor Supply. That's what facilitated the visit to the location to determine whether or not it really did represent an issue.
The town has their own requirements as well, John.
This is Samantha Hoskins, Town of Greene Planning Board. The purpose of security lights is to deter people from coming on the property. So I understand wanting to meet the requirements of the town, but making them too soft is also kind of, they're not serving their purpose in that sense. I'm just throwing my 2 cents in there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that.
Nancy Nowak, Town Planning Board. Are there other lights currently in the Great American parking lot that stay on all night? Must be nobody knows.
Michelle Day, Town Green Planning Board. Yes, Nancy, I believe that there are.
Okay. So then would it be a problem, or would it just create a lot of light? All these lights are on all night long. If they went to a softer light, is that going to really be a big deal if all these other lights are on?
This is George again. My concern is the cumulative effect, Nancy. That's all. We're just adding to more of it.
Exactly. That's what I'm wondering. If there's already a ton of lights down there on all night, do they need a whole lot more lights? I can see around the building for security purposes, but if they're a softer light, it should not be too outrageous. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. If they could come up with a softer light and still serve the purpose.
So Michelle Day, Town Green Planning Board, I have a question for the developer. So the lights that are out in the parking lot away from the building, those are going to be off half an hour after, right? And it's only the lights on the building that are security lights? Is that correct?
Brian Librant, that's correct.
Okay. So I believe that's actually less light in some regards than what we have today, because currently all of the lights in the parking lot stay in all night long.
Oh, guess I haven't been down there in the last 40 years at night.
Yeah.
Michelle, this is Bernie. Maybe you've checked recently, but I know typically the lights in the parking lot are not on at night at the Great American.
They were on when I was down there for a fire call a couple weeks ago. It was about 12:30 and they were all on. And maybe that was just a one-time thing. But at that point, they were all on.
Michelle, this is Jill Dahl. Usually when I get there at 5 o'clock in the morning, the lights are not on in the parking lot. I have spoke to Jeff before, and he has them on a timer situation.
Okay.
Oh.
So we can talk with Jeff about that.
Yeah, certainly you can talk to Jeff about that.
Okay. But at least that one night they were, and maybe somebody forgot to shut them off or something. They were later with going off.
Yeah, like I said, he has them on a timer, and I don't know what time he shuts them on or off, but they're usually not on when I get there in the morning.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any further discussion regarding this, or is there any planning board members that would like to make a motion in regards to this application?
John Scheer, planning board member. I'd like to move that we approve.
Do you have any contingencies, John, or as per the application has been submitted?
As per the application.
Any discussion at this point in time?
I believe we need a second before discussion.
I'm sorry, any seconds?
Samantha Hoskins, I second that, the approval.
Any discussion at this point?
Tim Connor, planning board member, I'd like to see that, that added to the approval that the trees be a little bit more suited to our locale, tulip poplar instead of other poplars, and possibly some coniferous trees mixed in as well.
Nancy Nowak, planning board member. I like that idea. I think the little variety in there will help make a better backdrop, shield, whatever.
Michelle, Dave.
Brian Librand with the developer. I don't know if I can interject at this point, but we have no problem with that request.
Okay, thank you, Brian. John, do you wish to make an amendment to your original?
Yes, I would amend the proposal that we approve with the noted changes to the trees in the back to a type of poplar tree that is going to be more suited to the local climate, and if it can be mixed in with some coniferous trees as well, that would be an improvement.
Okay. Sam, do you wish to still second the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
This is George, Town of Greene. I'm still not clear on what we're doing with the two different types of water oil separation that was proposed.
George, this is Nancy. Isn't he thinking more of the catch basin type separators?
I don't know.
That is
both were mentioned. I don't know which one we're approving.
John Shear, planning board member. That was the comment that was made as a preference by the engineer. I'm not sure that we have the experience to be able to differentiate one versus another unless somebody else in the group does.
Experience, I don't even have anything to look at.
So the application as submitted in the end has the oil water separator included with it. So I was under the impression that's what we were still asking for was the regular oil water separator, not the catch basins.
Michelle, Samantha Hoskins, Town Board Planning member, they also commented that in their catch basin details is the hood type design that they typically like to use.
Okay. Do you
So
have
as of right now, it sounds like both are called out. I don't know if there's anything specified on the most recent plan for an actual separator or not.
Do you have any experience with that, Sam?
No, not enough to make a call. I've seen both done. The hood type, again, like he says, I think are a lot more easily accessible. And the requirement to have the maintenance plan already in place, I think, again, is a good thing to indicate that they're going to be cleaned out regularly. But I don't think I have the experience to make a decision on that.
Okay.
This is Carl Schlesinger with the developer. Could we do this approval with a contingency that we get this oil water separator or hoods approved by the Town of Greene code enforcement officer, or have some kind of review like that, so that we can kind of spend a little more time with it and come up with a solution you like?
John Shear, planning board member. I think that sounds like a good alternative.
So John, Michelle, Dave, planning board member, do you want to amend your previously amended approval to include local tulip, poplar, coniferous trees, and then also either hood catch basins or oil water separators per code enforcement's preference?
Yes.
Sam, do you want to continue to second that?
Sure do, yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion amongst the board?
So Michelle, this is Nancy. Will they let us know which way they go and why? Will Mike Willock let us know?
Yes, we can get that information from Mike, and then we'll share that with the rest of the board. Any other discussion? Okay, then we'll move forward with a vote by roll call to make sure we get everybody. So John,
Yes?
Sam,
Yes.
George,
Nay.
Tim,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and myself is yes. So at this point, the motion carries, and you guys can expect to see a approval letter for Tractor Supply with those contingencies mailed out in the next couple of days. And then we will also send you a copy of the 239 report that we received from the county there talking about the lights facing down. And we'll also make sure we pass that information on to Mike Wheelock, our code enforcement officer, so he can move on to the next steps of the process. And we'll also talk with him regarding the hood basin and catch basin versus the oil water separator, and let Mike make the determination on which ones he thinks would be the most beneficial to the town. Okay, so any other discussions regarding Tractor Supply? Otherwise, thank you very much, and we'll move on to our next application. Okay, so for Uncommon Grounds, John, you were also the committee chair for this one. Do you have a report for us?
Yes. During the same site visit, we also did a walk around on the proposed relocation site for Uncommon Grounds. We did walk the parking lot area, looked at the entrance and exit, and determined roughly where the property lines were to make sure that that wasn't going to be an infringement. We also discussed some of the aesthetics of the property in moving the building and changing the orientation. We also came up with a list of recommendations. Among them was to have the building painted. Another recommendation was some kind of shrubbery or other type of planting in front to kind of break up the sight line of the building. And then also there was a discussion about the construction of the driveway and to determine what kind of construction would be required to support the type of traffic that was going to go through a drive-through. Recommending that we suggest that the driveway be paved so that it would hold up over the long term. Even if the paving was after the original relocation, but to coincide with the paving of the parking lot. So those were recommendations that we put in writing to Jill, and then we had some discussion about that, but those recommendations were understood and agreed.
Okay, thank you, John. Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board. I also have results from the 239 that we sent to the county, and their recommendation was all lighting be baffled downward, and that was the only comment that they had. We did also send a copy of the application because of its location to the village planning board to make them aware of what was going on in the site. Okay, so any board discussion regarding the proposed project? Okay. So since this project that we did approve previously, I did have the files pulled for the previous application in case there were any questions about what the prior approval had been contingent on. And at that point in time, we did say that we were going to address any signage, stay outside the right of way, and all lighting was going to be face down or internally lit, and that the sign was going to have a switch or a timer, so it was going to be off when the business was closed. So that's what the previous approval had in it. So is there any board discussion regarding the proposed project?
Nancy Nowak, planning board member. Is Bill okay with the recommendations, and what does she feel?
This is Jill Dahl. Yes, I did discuss all the recommendations with John, and they all sound perfectly okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jill.
You're welcome.
So Michelle Day, Town of Greene Planning Board member. Any further discussion at this point in time? Or are we ready to entertain a recommendation or motion? Entertain a motion from the floor?
John Shear, planning board member. I recommend that we approve.
Nancy Nowak, planning board member. I'll second it.
Any further discussion from the board? Michelle, planning board member.
Tim Connor, planning board member. Since the agreed to recommendations were not in the original application, I think they have to be listed in the approval.
So do we want to include them as being contingencies in the approval, or is that something we're leaving as being a recommendation? What's the board's feeling on that?
This is Matt Curtis. I think we should leave them as recommendations. The only one I would maybe contingency upon would be the shrubbery in front of the building.
Tim Connor, planning board member. I have the sort of reverse opinion. I think the driveway, I don't have to have the driveway paved right away, but I think the driveway will have to be paved at some future time, and that should be part of the approval.
Michelle, I know I'm out of order. It's Marcia Miller. I was there the other day, and where her driveway is coming out, there was a Pepsi truck parked there. So at one point in time, Great American does have 2 tractor trailers there that may be blocking her exit.
Okay. John, do you wish to make any amendment to the motion that you have on the floor?
I think we should make an amendment, particularly in regard to the driveway. Even if it's not present at the time of the relocation, that the driveway does need to be paved. So I would motion that we add that.
Okay. So to clarify, the motion on the floor is the application as submitted with the amendment that the driveway be paved within, is there an X amount of time that we want to put on that?
I think to coincide with the paving of the parking lot.
Thank you, John. That's what I was going to say. Good.
Okay. Jill, are you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, yeah, I believe that's already been discussed, that when they pave the parking lot, they'll go ahead and do the drive-through as well.
Okay. So, Sam, do you have a second to John's motion? Sorry, I should have done that before we did the discussion.
This is Matt Curtis. It was Nancy that seconded it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks, Matt.
That was me.
Nancy, do you still want to second it?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a first and a second on the floor for the amendment as submitted with paving the driveway at the time the rest of the parking lot is paved. Is there any further discussion regarding that? Okay, at this point in time.
Are we going to,
oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
George, planning board member, just curious if there was any discussion about lane markers for that driveway once it's paved. Is it necessary or not?
This is Matt Curtis. I don't think it could hurt at all, George. I think that's a good idea just to help eliminate as much confusion as possible when you have people exiting the Great American parking lot and entering on common grounds. I like that idea. If that's something that's possible to do.
Is that something we need to define, or can we leave it to code enforcement?
Well, I'm wondering if we make a contingent. This is Matt Curtis. If we made it another contingency in there that code enforcement will need to sign off on lane markings, and then then code enforcement can at least inform Michelle once that's done, or it's up to approval. I'm not 100% sure on if that's his realm or not.
I think it can go either way. I think we can put it in there as a contingency for planning board approval, but I think we could also say there has to be some sort of that in it, and then let Mike decide what's prudent for that time period. But if the board has a feeling of exactly what we'd like to see, I think we should discuss that, and we could put that in the approval. So then
John
it's
Shear, planning board member. I think it would be appropriate to let Mike review the ideas for putting the lines in the parking lot for the lanes. I think the developers would probably want to do it at the same time that they stripe the parking lot. So if there was a need for some type of temporary lane, Mike could speak to that, and then also make a proposal to the developer how it should be marked permanently.
okay.
This is Samantha Hoskins, planning board member. I think they'll also need to, which Mike will probably look at, signage and directional arrows. I mean, you'll want to put a sign, I think, on the bowling alley side to say do not enter, so you don't have people trying to go in the wrong way. And they'll probably want to mark with arrows as well. So I don't know how far we want to go with the conditional approvals there. I would think Mike would already be looking for things like that, but I'm not 100%.
This is George, planning board member again. Could we put down something that driveway to be paved and marked according to code enforcement recommendations or something like that?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that John Shear, planning board member. I think that makes good sense to phrase it that way.
Okay. John, would you like to amend your motion?
Once again, I would like to amend my motion that we include the statement on allowing the code enforcement officer to administer to the lining of the lanes and any kind of signage that needs to be placed on site.
Okay. Nancy, do you wish to still second it?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion amongst the board? Okay, then we'll call a roll call vote. Tim?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Matt?
Yeah.
Sam?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Michelle? Yes. So with that, the relocation of On Common Grounds is approved, and Jelly will be receiving an approval letter within the next couple of days with those contingencies listed. And we'll also give you a copy of the 239 review.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And anybody have any further discussions regarding any of our old business? we don't have any new business at this point in time. So we'll move on to other business, where we had our sign law that we discussed, proposed sign law, a few weeks ago. Well, actually about 3 weeks ago or so now. Does anybody have anything new on that?
This is George. I've been trying to rewrite the law we got from Skinny Atlas to kind of fit. I haven't gotten very far, but I have been working on it.
Okay. Thank you. So since our meeting's running a little later this evening, I didn't know if we wanted to, well, we have a couple of order of, so from a training perspective, right now, training is on hold with the county until COVID-19 gets a little bit more settled and we see what the future looks like. But the latest information I had from them was right now that trainings are on hold for the time being. And there's a possibility of virtual training in the future. And when that comes up, I'll make sure to pass it on to the board, that information, and we can talk about what we want to do for our training requirement.
Michelle,
Mm-hmm.
Marcia Miller Village and Zoning and Planning Board, is your sign law continued or close to what we have? And we work together, so we might be similar when we're close together geographically?
At this point in time, I think that we are a little bit differentiated from one another, and we've been looking at all the different lines around, but I think we can certainly take a look at what you guys have as well, and then compare what we come up with too, and then have a conversation about where we're both at and see what makes sense for each entity.
Okay, I think that would be good, that Village Zoning and Planning at least see a copy of yours, and we can maybe revamp ours, or you can revamp yours, so we're similar.
Okay.
Thank you.
And definitely review it and then decide how to proceed from there.
Thank you.
Okay, so for our next meeting, at this point in time, we've been asked to consider that to be a virtual meeting for the month of April, where our next meeting would be potentially April 27th. And it would be the same rules as tonight, where we would have to speak where we are, and then we do it again via Skype. And then I also wanted to see what the board felt like, if we wanted to try to have another work session to work through more on the sign law, if you wanted us to do that, George, or if we wanted to take some time and then work on it at the next meeting on the 27th, or what's the board's feeling on that?
My personal feeling is having a work session that's very likely going to be a virtual work session isn't going to be terribly productive. I'd like to try and get a little bit of time and sketch out something a little firmer with Greene that I can get everybody, and then maybe we can regroup and discuss that.
Okay. So at this point in time, should we tentatively stick with the next time talking about it at our regular meeting on the 27th? And then if things change in the meantime, we can do something different at that point. But
I like that, yeah.
okay. But for now, we should plan on the meeting on the 27th being a Skype meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any other business?
Michelle, this is Matt Curtis. I know I keep harping on it, but I was just curious to see, have we had any movement on having code enforcement available for our meetings?
No, not at this point in time. He's happy to answer any of our questions beforehand during regular business hours or the next day, but at this point in time, there's no plan for him to attend our meetings. but we will certainly keep requesting that.
What would it take to get a plan to have him there for maybe not every meeting, but tonight would have been good just to have him as a advisory for us on his opinion just on a oil and water separator would have been valuable. Or I've seen a couple of the meetings where we could have used him as a valued resource. How can we initiate a plan to get him to maybe the more, the pertinent ones that he needs to be at?
Right. No, I appreciate that question, and I completely agree. I think we need to talk with Supervisor Henning when he returns from medical leave, and also with the Personnel Committee. So I'd be happy to have that conversation with them. And I think that Supervisor Henning's expected to be back in a couple weeks. So prior to our next meeting, I expect that we'll be able to have that conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, Michelle, this is John. I agree with Matt. I think Mike's involvement would be invaluable from time to time. So I would definitely encourage that.
Okay. I will talk with Supervisor Henning and the Personnel Committee regarding that. Okay, does anybody have anything else for tonight before we talk about meeting minutes?
Yeah, Michelle, I have one more thing. This is George. You've been going to the town board meetings, and I applaud you on that. I think that's excellent. But I have a question on the minutes for the March 11th meeting that you were at. And it says the planning board referred Bob Hoffman to the Department of Conservation for information on mining and gravel pits for his project on County Road 32. Michelle, this never happened.
No,
I
agreed. I agree. I have to talk with Debbie regarding that for them to ask them, the town board, to amend that. That was a recommendation for him to talk to Mike, and Mike sent him there. It was code enforcement that sent him to that, not planning board.
This is Matt Curtis.
Okay,
the gentleman wanted to he wanted to start a gravel pit?
He wants to remove a big hill there. It's next to where Elders used to be on East River Road.
Yeah.
Out there behind where Sue lives now.
Right.
They want to remove a big hill there in order to turn it over to farming. So he was asking how to go about doing that. And we said he had to talk with planning board, and then he did call me at one point in time, and I did tell him he had to talk with Mike on there. And the discussion was that it would probably be a mining permit, but that he needed to clarify that with code enforcement.
Now, if I remember correctly, Michelle, from the 2 months, he's been there 2 months in a row now talking about the same thing. Is this the same person?
No, he wasn't actually there in March. He wasn't at the March meeting.
Okay.
No. So thank you. We'll get that updated. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, otherwise, is there any thoughts regarding our meeting minutes from last month?
Michelle, Tim Connor, Planning Board member. I make a motion to approve the minutes from our last monthly meeting.
John Shearer, I second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
So was I too quick with the opposed?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, mixed signals there, I'm afraid.
So, yeah. So no opposition to the meeting minutes, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Any thoughts on adjourning the meeting? But prior to that, I do want to thank everybody for your help and support with working through things this past month. I know it's been a challenging time for a lot of people in a lot of different ways, but I really appreciate the fact that everybody was able to come together to hold the meeting tonight in some way, shape, or form, and that we'll make sure we get the recording posted and the transcription on the website in accordance with it and get everything set up. And then we'll send out also an invitation for our next meeting on April 27th. And
yeah, Michelle, I just want to just congratulate you on being able to pull this off.
well, thank you. It was with a lot of help from everybody, so we really appreciate that and sincerely hope that everybody stays well in these challenging times. So does anybody?
Michelle, I'd like to congratulate you as well and say that this is a groundbreaking day as far as the Town of Greene Planning Board is concerned. So we finally got off into the virtual world. So again, congratulations. That was a lot of hard work. I don't care who you want to say helped you. I think you did all of it pretty much by yourself.
Well, thank you very much, and I do really appreciate everybody's support and help.
Michelle, or Marcia Miller, I did appreciate it too. It was kind of neat to sit and listen. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome. So thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it and hope everybody stays well. And was there anything else anybody wanted to discuss this evening?
Tim Connor, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
John Shear, I'll second.
Everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Take care.
Take care.
You take care too.